statement is evidence in a federal copyright infringement lawsuit between Bob Dylan and James Damiano, also identified as Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs. This video is directed to the managing partners of the law firm of Gibson Dunn, Barbara Becker, Trey Cox, and Oren Snyder, regarding the massive amount of fraud they have committed while representing Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's 27-year-old gag order on Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs in federal court has come back to haunt not only Dylan, but Dylan's law firm, Gibson Dunn. Back in 2003, when James Damiano started emailing attorneys the fraud Oren Snyder had committed during his representation of Bob Dylan against James Damiano and Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs, suddenly the Fifth Avenue law firm of Parcher, Hayes, and Snyder dissolved. It's obvious that Bob Dylan's lead attorney, Oren Snyder of Gibson Dunn, is trying extremely hard to get James Damiano to lose his temper and say something forbidding. However, after utilizing a federal gag order against James Damiano for over 27 years in a civil lawsuit, it's not that hard to understand that nothing could be as intimidating or forbidding as simply stating the fact, which is officially substantiated through the record of the court. To reiterate, Bob Dylan is utilizing a federal gag order on James Damiano's copyright infringement lawsuit for over 27 years. I doubt anything could be as partial as that if you can grasp that concept. Here, the court is documenting its partiality toward Bob Dylan. 27 years worth of partiality. It is impossible for Oren Snyder or Gibson Dunn to sustain any legitimacy when they are in front of the whole world committing this amount of fraud. The most concealed, suppressed, and contentious story in the history of rock and roll. By avoiding acknowledgement of this video, Barbara Becker, Trey Cox, and Oren Snyder will only further validate their firm's fraudulent representation in Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs. I'm pleased to announce that I was recently informed that at least 12,500 attorneys employed by the FBI and the Department of Justice are aware of the fraud committed by Bob Dylan's lead attorney, Oren Snyder, in James Damiano's copyright lawsuit against Bob Dylan in federal court. As you can see from the deposition material presented at the end of this video, Dylan's lead attorney, Oren Snyder, lied to the court every time he signed declarations stating that James Damiano was delusional. May I also explain that there is no need to break into James Damiano's cars or James Damiano's home as you had previously, looking for originals. I assure you, the originals are not there and that they are securely well hidden away. I also assure you that should James Damiano's movie 11 Years, Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs ever be produced, your firm will be shown to be the criminals they are. Should you doubt that there is a sufficient amount of interest in the story Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs, may I state to you that after emailing a 400 attorney law firm, James Damiano received a call from the managing partner stating to James, "How dare you inundate my law firm?" When the court granted Bob Dylan the gag order, the court, became complicit in Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs by assisting Bob Dylan to cover up the actual theft of the songs to the public. All depositions taken during discovery reveal the substantiation of Oren Snyder's statements to the court as being untrue. The blatancy of Snyder's untrue statements to the court cannot be overlooked or denied. Dear Ms. Becker, Mr. Cox, and Oren Snyder, this is my second request to you concerning information regarding my question about when I could expect payment of the $25 million for your law firm's uncontested and documented fraud upon the court. Please find this statement of charges due upon request for the substantiated and verified fraud upon the court and corruption committed by your law firm and in association with Oren Snyder, the James Damiano versus Bob Dylan for copyright infringement litigation. The amount billed and due to be paid is $25 million. This statement includes all said corruption, including your firm's defamation of Mr. Damiano to the public, that has been substantiated and documented to the record of the court. This invoice also encompasses and includes your firm's refusal to return James Damiano's songs produced during discovery, 25 years of writing. There were no less than 20 boxes filled with anywhere from 200 to 350 finished and unfinished songs in each box. 27 years of writing that were never returned. Said statement of charges will relieve you and your firm of all malfeasance regarding Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs. It will also relieve you and your firm's failure to return all of James Damiano's musical and lyrical materials that were produced to your firm during discovery. For review regarding and including 11 years of produced songs to Bob Dylan's private P.O. Box, Columbia Records, CBS Sony, John Hammond Sr., Mikey Harris, Anthony Tiller, Elliot Mintz, Tom Masters, Mike Reed, Richard Fernandez, and Jeff Kramer, and also including attorneys Oren Snyder and Stephen Kramer. James Damiano's copyright infringement lawsuit against Bob Dylan substantiates, through the record of the court, the fraud committed by Bob Dylan's lead attorney, Oren Snyder of Gibson Dunn, and the United States Federal District Court. According to the record of the court, it is verified, substantiated, and conclusive that in James Damiano's copyright infringement lawsuit against Bob Dylan, the court was negligent in maintaining integrity, legitimacy, honesty, and lawfulness. Bob Dylan had no facts that supported his innocence. No facts as in none. None as in zero. Not one sentence, not one word, not one fact. As you know, 28 years ago, on March 14, 1996, Judge Joel B. Rosen ruled in favor of Bob Dylan's federal order for confidentiality, designating all discovery materials as confidential. To this day, the order remains in effect. In retrospect, the gag order is a 27-year after-the-fact litigation order that strives to avoid transparency. The order also attempts to diminish James Damiano's credibility to the public. On February 6, 2012, an investigation into the fraud committed in James Damiano's lawsuit against Bob Dylan was opened by the United States Attorney General. The file number is Department of Justice file number 2452370. The file remains open. I'm pleased to announce that I was recently informed that at least 12,500 attorneys employed by the FBI and the Department of Justice are aware of the fraud committed by Bob Dylan's lead attorney, Orrin Snyder, in James Damiano's copyright lawsuit against Bob Dylan in federal court. Please note, regarding James Damiano's 11-year affiliation with Bob Dylan, John Hammond, Mikey Harris, Elliot Mintz, and all other associates of Bob Dylan, James Damiano chose not to tell Bob Dylan that he would have to wait 23 weeks for any new songs that Mr. Damiano had written, and that he would have to copyright the song before submitting it to Dylan. Instead, James trusted Dylan and produced many songs over the period of 11 years that Dylan had recorded and released on his albums. The only songs that Mr. Damiano had listed in the lawsuit were songs he had registered for copyright with the Library of Congress. Mr. Snyder has been powerless and ineffective in containing his and Dylan's fraud upon the court to the public, and has severely impaired and damaged Bob Dylan's reputation. While Damiano has been undeterred, Snyder's fraudulent, defensive, and offensive legal efforts, along with the court's illicit 25-year after-the-fact litigation federal gag order against Damiano, have only brought massive attention to Bob Dylan's long documented history of stealing songs and especially melodies. The mere existence of this press release, along with the fact that it can be emailed to 200 attorneys at any given law firm with the click of the mouse, titled Bob Dylan's Stealing of James Damiano's Songs, begs the question of who actually won the James Damiano-Bob Dylan lawsuit. It's a shame Gibson Dunn's chair, Barbara Becker, Trey Cox, and co-chair Orrin Snyder can't comprehend this very simple, basic concept. This case not ever being permitted to be heard by a jury may have fooled some of the public, but I assure you, not everyone has been fooled, and much of the public is learning that, as per the record of the court, Judge Simandl's final opinion was in no way consistent with the facts of the case. Not at all. Most people know that it doesn't take a genius to know that if one word in this statement were untrue, Dylan could file criminal charges against Damiano. Most people know that if someone publicly states that Bob Dylan stole their songs and was unable to provide proof of that statement, then Dylan, after spending millions of dollars on a lawsuit, will be able to file criminal charges against the person making the claims. Both you and I know, Ms. Becker and Mr. Cox and Mr. Snyder, that never happened. Dylan's only defense was to have federal magistrate Judge Joe B. Rosen rule in favor of Bob Dylan on a confidentiality order that designated all discovery materials that were produced in this litigation to be confidential. In other words, a gag order. Bob Dylan's lead attorney, Orrin Snyder, and the United States Federal District Court intentionally designed a judicial ploy to nefariously conceal the fact that Bob Dylan had no defense in Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs. Dylan's plan was effective for over 27 years and deterred movie and streaming publishers from producing James Damiano's movie 11 Years, Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs. It also deterred book publishers from publishing James Damiano's book 11 Years, and, in the meantime, keeping all of James Damiano's songs. Even after James Damiano's attorney, Robert Church, wrote a letter to Oren Snyder requesting the songs back in 2009. Oren Snyder still hasn't responded. And it's the year 2025. I'd just like to take this time to thank the people who are listening to my podcasts. It's greatly appreciated. So let's start from the beginning. I think I've earned the right to state that Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs is the most concealed, hidden, suppressed, and covered up story in history of rock and roll. Imagine, if you will, filing a federal copyright infringement lawsuit against Bruce Springsteen's idol, Bob Dylan, and having only one major news publication nationwide write one article about it without ever following up on the article. Just the title alone of Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs says it all. This title was published on the internet for over 20 years without Bob Dylan ever filing a countersuit or a criminal complaint against James Damiano. Speaking in definitives or absolutes is defined as statements that are presented as undeniably true, leaving no room for doubt. A definitive question is one that seeks a final conclusive and authoritative answer. It implies an answer that is not open to further debate or challenge. The statements made by witnesses in the depositions taken in Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs are definitive. Bob Dylan's lead attorney of Gibson Dunn, Oren Snyder, was the interrogator and the interviewer. Snyder asked the questions in the depositions, heard the answers given by the witnesses, and had the opportunity to review in camera these definitive answers. When reviewing the depositions, one can conclude that all answers were definitive and in James Damiano's favor. One example would be Catherine Baker's testimony. One would have to acknowledge that testimony such as Catherine Baker's, which supplied one of the motives for the lawsuit, was in Damiano's favor. In 1988, Associated Press article by Catherine Baker, who interviewed Bob Dylan, Miss Baker writes, he didn't have enough material of his own for an album.
Period, unquote. Did Mr. Dylan say those words?
Yes.
You then continue without quotes. The other reason for the others is inevitable, colon. He didn't, that's D-I-D-N apostrophe T, as in did not. He didn't have enough material of his own for an album, period, period. Did Mr. Dylan say those words?
I went back in the transcript and I was paraphrasing him, and that's not entirely accurate. He said he didn't have enough songs that he wanted to put on an album.
This is only one small segment of the 50 hours of deposition materials. However, I assure you that all 50 hours of deposition materials are as incriminating as Miss Baker's statement. It is impossible for Mr. Snyder to sustain any level of integrity, honesty, or lawfulness when the deposition materials reveal the stark opposite position of Warren Snyder's declarations to the court. Mr. Snyder's false and inaccurate declarative statements entered upon the record of the court constitutes fraud. It also constitutes a fraud upon the court.
Have you ever lied to Mr. Damiano?
Yes.
And can you list for me the times that you lied to him?
Many times, not many times, but on those occasions when he would ask me, could I pass on something to Mr. Dillon? I may have said to him, I'll try and pass it along, or words to that effect.
You state at the top of the page, or at least it appears to that you state, my job here is to pass along information to Bob. Do you recall saying that, sir? Looking
Yes.
at the top. Okay. And Bob, of course, is Bob Dylan.
Yes.
And then you say, which I think I have. Do you see that, sir?
Yes.
Did you say that?
Yes.
Okay. When you said that to Mr. Damiano, which I think I have, were you lying to him?
I was misstating the truth.
Midway, you say, well, let's just put it in context. James Damiano says, you do remember about a year ago when I was at work, about a year and a half ago, when I was at work, and I asked you if you knew of anything. Remember, you said Bob Dylan had the songs in his suitcase and that he was going to read them. And the transcript states you said, no, I never said that. Then James Damiano says, you don't remember saying that? And then you say, no, I did not say that. I remember in our conversation, cause I checked my notes, that you said you gave some songs to a bus driver who claims he put them on Bob's bus. Did you say those things?
Did I say those things to Mr. Damiano?
Yes.
Yes.
And when you say I checked my notes, were you lying?
I was not speaking the truth, correct.
Okay. Do you contend that he was delusional? Are you telling the jury that Mr. Damiano was delusional? Yes or no? I want the answer to that question, please, if you would be so kind. Yes or no? Was Mr. Damiano delusional?
In my opinion, Mr. Damiano was, at the time of these conversations, delusional. Under the subject of mistruths spoken to your client, during the course of these telephone conversations, he would frequently ask me to pass along information, ask questions about Bob, or to Bob about him. And I, in fact, told him that I would, and that I did. In the course of these telephone conversations, he would frequently ask me to pass along information, ask questions about Bob, or to Bob about him. And I, in fact, told him that I would, and that I did.
Now I'm talking, okay, I'm sorry. That's my fault.
Those other questions.
That's my fault. My fault. With regard to this person from Sweden, have you shared those documents with a psychiatrist or a psychologist?
No.
So would it be fair to state that just like the only person who you know, at least, other than counsel, who's made his opinion on the record abundantly clear, that believes Mr. Damiano is delusional, is you? In other words, do you know of anybody else who believes Mr. Damiano is delusional?
I've not discussed Mr. Damiano with anybody.
So would the answer be no?
No.
Okay. And would your answer be the same with regard to the gentleman from Sweden? Have you showed, I'll ask you the same series of questions, have you shown those documents to any psychiatrist or psychologist?
No.
Okay. And is there anyone else that you know of that shares your opinion that that person is delusional?
I haven't shown it to anybody else.
So the answer be no?
Correct.
So that we're clear, the only person in the world that we know of for sure that believes that the person who made the accusations against Mr. Dillon from Sweden, that he's delusional, is you. Correct?
Only one we know of for sure. We don't know if there are other people, friends of his, who think
The
he's
only
delusional.
one, right, we don't.
But
We
no.
know. The only one we know for sure that believes he's delusional is you.
Yes.
And same with Mr. Damiano?
Yes.
Okay, and it's been established you have absolutely no training whatsoever in psychology or anything like that, correct?
Well, under the subject anything like that, I would think that 16 years of analyzing these kinds of letters from these kinds of people would qualify me to render some evaluation under that category.
Do you have any formal training, sir?
In psychiatry? No.
Psychology?
No.
Mental health?
No, sir.
Have you taken any seminars in psychology, psychiatry, or mental health? Have you written any books about it?
No, I have not.
Okay, have you written any books about delusional people?
I've never written a book.
Have you written any articles about delusional people?
No.
And without naming this person in Sweden, okay, sir.
The time is 6:23 p.m. and we're back on the record.
Okay, from page 149, would you quote the words that you would like to tell the jury, in your view, revealed Mr. Damiano as being delusional?
Must I confine that to delusional, or may I suggest delusions of grandeur, or any kind of extension of the word delusional?
Well, let's take it one at a time. Let's first talk about delusional. Or let's do it this way. Okay. Anything that in your mind you would like to tell the jury reveals to you that Mr. Damiano is suffering from some sort of delusion.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. The following would support that hypothesis in my mind. I'm quoting, I mean, these people befriended me for 11 years. Those are the quotes of somebody who I would classify as being in some way hampered, confused, disturbed, is suffering from delusions of grandeur, deluding himself, confused in some way. It doesn't bring me joy to say it. I'm not saying it in an accusatory manner or in a degrading manner. I'm not trying to hurt Mr. Damiano's feelings. Just based on reading hundreds and hundreds of these kinds of letters, those are the feelings that I get from the words that I see before me.
When Mr. Damiano said that people befriended me for 11 years, did you talk to anyone at CBS to see if that was the case? And if so, whom?
I believe I had one telephone conversation with that individual that Damiano asked me to contact.
Mr. Tiller?
Mr. Tiller,
Okay.
yes.
And did he refer to Mr. Damiano as a friend of his? Yes or no?
I have very little recollection of my conversation with Mr. Tiller. I can't recall.
I'm sorry. Were you aware that Mr. Tiller, on at least one occasion, you understand Mr. Tiller to have been, I think, up to this day, even, to be an executive at CBS?
No, I do not.
Can I suggest Mr. Tiller to be an employee of CBS?
I was told he was an employee of CBS.
Okay.
I never knew what he
I'm just going to object because I believe you're mischaracterizing
What is this objection?
I believe you're mischaracterizing his testimony.
I was promoted to Associate Director of Marketing Services.
Let's go back to the Jones Beach concert, if we may, to the time when you offered the tickets to Mr. Damiano before the concert actually took place. Okay? During that point in time when you offered the tickets to him and before he actually went to the concert, did you ever say to him or suggest to him that maybe he should bring some of his songs with him?
No, I did not.
Right. Do you deny saying that, or is it you just don't recall one way or the other?
I deny suggesting to Jim that he bring songs along with him. I did, however, concur with him when he asked me, do you think I should bring my songs with me? I said, sure, why not? What could it hurt?
Where did this interview take place between yourself and Mr. Dillon?
It was over dinner at a restaurant called Il Cielo here in Beverly Hills.
And do you recall when it took place?
August 5th, 1988, in the evening, sometime around 7, 8 o'clock, something like that.
Thank you. And was anyone else present at the table with you?
Yes, Elliot Mintz, who was at the time Bob Dylan's publicist. Said before it sounded like the tour had maybe kept him from writing as much as he had in the past.
James Damiano versus Sony Music Entertainment Incorporated and Bob Dylan. And the case number is 95-4795. We're here at the offices of Parcher and Hayes, located at 500 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York. And this is a deposition of Tony Tiller. This time counsel will identify themselves.
Stephen Kramer for the plaintiff.
Orange Snyder and Ruth Lott for Sony Music Entertainment, Inc. and Bob Dylan.
At this time, I have the court reporter swearing the witness.
Raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear in the testimony you're about to give that you will tell the whole truth so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Tiller, good morning. You are employed by whom, sir?
Sony Music.
And how long have you been employed by Sony Music?
For 9 years on staff, 10 years if you count, approximately a year and 2 months as temp / per diem. I was promoted to Associate Director of Marketing Services.
Did you ever have in your office any compilations of any sort of Mr. Damiano's songs that you kept on your bookshelf?
When you say compilation, what?
Folder, binder, book, tablet.
Printed
Material, anything.
Printed material, yes.
Okay, and draw, if you would, so I can picture it, and the jury can picture it, a verbal picture of your office, and then, after you do that, where the material rested.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, so the record's clear. Are we talking about, because you may have had more than one office over the course of the years, so you might want to...
Sure, if you had more than one office, take me through it.
Okay, when I first started as a temp, I moved from office to office to cover for people who were on vacation.
Okay, just to speed it up a touch, perhaps. If you would, Mr. Tiller, limit yourself to the offices in which these materials were ever located.
Okay, my first office, I had, the door would be, say, in that corner. Over here, I had 2 file cabinets, a table, a small table to my left attached to my desk, an art desk in that corner, a bookcase right next to that, and next to that a file cabinet.
Okay, thank you.
The book that Jim had given me would be on that bookcase.
To your right.
To my right.
Okay. And what year did you receive that book initially? And what did it have in it?
It had a bunch of songs, or a bunch of, I guess, well, he called them songs, so I called them songs, but they were words written in verse form.
Was it in a binder, a folder?
It was in a binder.
Like a 3-ring binder?
3-ring binder.
And where is that today?
I do not know.
When was the last time you saw it?
When we were in the CBS building at 52 West 52nd Street.
And you're telling us and the jury you don't know what happened to those materials of songs or words?
No, I do not.
Just disappeared?
Well, when we moved from that building approximately 4 or 5 years ago, as I explained to Jim, we were to pack our own desks. We were pressed to work until the day we moved, pretty much. And the movers came in and packed everything else. There were things that were left behind.
And so could you pinpoint, Mr. Tiller, what year Mr. Damiano's book of songs or words disappeared from your office?
You did not say disappeared. You're mischaracterizing his testimony. You did not say they disappeared.
So
Well, if you mischaracterize the testimony...
Oh, that's an exception to our stipulation? So that means during Mr. Mintz's deposition, every time you... Did Mr. Damiano's songs, Mr. Tiller, disappear?
Could I have you rephrase that?
Sure. What happened to his songs that had been on your shelf for how long?
1.5, possibly 2 years.
Okay. The songs, or that binder, without... That binder disappeared, did it not?
They were left in the building when we moved.
And did you ever go back to retrieve it or to ask where it was?
No, I did not. There were...
And is that building still owned by CBS?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And that's CBS's headquarters, yes?
Yeah.
And all we know now, and all the jury knows now, is that you don't have it, correct?
That is correct.
And Sony does not have it, to your knowledge.
Sony does not have it.
Right. And if we went to your office today, where your office used to be on 52nd Street, did that?
No, I did not.
And all we know now, and all the jury knows now, is that you don't have it, correct?
That is correct.
And Sony does not have it, to your knowledge.
Sony does not have it.
Right. And if we went to your office today, where your office used to be on 52nd Street, at CBS's headquarters, did you ever tell Mr. Damiano that his materials had been lost, or left behind, or disappeared?
Yes, I did.
And what did he say?
I can't recall exactly what he said. But I did tell him I was sorry.
Counsel, this is the second witness in a row, literally, who received materials from the plaintiff comprising one or more of his songs, where the materials have disappeared, whether you want to use the word disappeared, lost, destroyed, evaporated, whatever phrase you want to use. And I want the record to note that this is the second witness in a row. Mr. Mintz testified that he destroyed Mr. Damiano's faxed materials. And no, not only did he destroy them, he went further. He said he shredded them.
Mm-hmm.
And now Mr. Tiller is saying that the binder of materials of songs that Mr. Tiller received got lost, disappeared, don't exist. And
of you giving him money to record a tape?
I would say a couple of weeks before the meeting with Anthony.
And he approached you, is that correct?
Yeah.
And what did he tell you about what he hoped would happen as a result of your investment?
Well, basically, there was that one song that he really liked a lot, which is My Cousin Joanne, and we just believed that would be a big hit. That if somebody like Bob Dylan would sing that song, that would be like a big hit. And that was, that's what got me interested.
And then your wife told you that, yes, in fact,
Bob Dylan is
superstar.
a big, yes.
Gentlemen, could you possibly speak one at a time?
Okay.
So we don't have to do this twice.
So in effect, Mr. Damiano asked you to invest $10,000 in his recording project.
Yes.
If you knew right now that Mr. Damiano had a $200,000 CD and was living high in the hog, you'd call him up and you'd say,
from what I remember,
what about my $10,000? Correct?
If he didn't give it to me. But from what I remember about Jim, if he has the money, he will give it to me.
And in fact, the $10,000 investment, which you made in 1987, if you compound interest and do all, and when he told you that nothing was being done, is it fair to say that you became, at times, somewhat annoyed at the situation?
Yeah, I wasn't happy about it.
And what, if anything, did you say to Mr. Damiano about the failure of him to turn that investment into any profit for you?
I didn't make a case of it. All I remember is just talking to Jim Damiano about it. Just stay with it. Just don't give up. Keep trying. That's things in that nature, In my mind, you gotta understand, I didn't see Jim doing anything wrong. I think he produced a good record. I liked it. My wife liked it. It was a good music. I still got a few tapes. I know I gave some to my friends, and everybody liked it. We did nothing wrong as far as that. The bad part of it is that I'm the one that spent the money on it, and I didn't get anything back. But I was convinced that this was a good decision, and at the same time that the tape came out very good. So he didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't mad at him. I was mad at myself.
Well, sir, you said you didn't believe him and his claims about Bob Dylan, listening to his music when you were in the car dealership before your meeting with Tony Tiller. That was your testimony, correct?
Yes.
After the meeting, and after it became clear that your $10,000 was going down the drain, isn't it fair to say that your feelings of disbelief began to reemerge?
Not after the meeting, after the tape, after 2-3 weeks after the tape was done. After the meeting, I was very excited.
We're going to get to the meeting in a minute and your excitement. I'm now taking you after this meeting. There came a time when it was clear that your $10,000 investment was going down the drain.
That sunk in.
You got your American Express Platinum bill.
Mm-hmm.
Wham! $10,000.
You have to pay it all at once.
So every month you're reminded about this $10,000 investment that had gone down the drain. And my question to you, sir, is...
Was that a question, or was that just a color commentary about every month?
Is that correct?
Well, not me. Maybe my wife. She pays the bills. But I just put it out of my mind. But yes, I could see what he's saying, though. But it wasn't me personally. I don't see.
You were aware, sir, month to month, that you had to pay the interest or whatever it is on the $10,000?
Yes, I was.
And my question to you, sir, is that after those 3 weeks, and after you started paying monthly the $10,000, your feelings of disbelief about Mr. Damiano's claims of having some connection to Bob Dylan began to resurface.
Are you asking him that? Or
yeah, I'm asking him.
Okay. Well, if you want an answer for that, I'll give you an answer. I don't think that Jim was the one that give me that disbelief. It was Anthony. I think Jim was just maybe lied to like I was. That's how I perceived it. I took him for a victim just as much as myself. Okay. If there was no connections to Mr. Dylan, it wasn't because of what he said to me. It was because of what Anthony said to me.
Okay. I understand that, and we'll get to that in a minute. I'm not asking about mad now. I'm asking about not believing, not because Mr. Damiano was lying to you or not lying to you, but not believing the claim that Mr. Damiano had some connection to Bob Dylan. My question to you, sir, is whether after those 3 weeks, those feelings of disbelief resurfaced.
Yes, it did resurface. And I also had second thoughts about maybe that just the whole thing was a scam. Okay, or the whole thing was a scam, or also that this music just got stolen from us. It basically just went the way they wanted to go. We paid the money and something else will happen to it. I mean, a million things will go through your head to justify it. But at the time, yes, I was upset. And the bottom line is we lost track of each other after that for a few years, and I just forgot about it.
My specific question is whether after those 3 weeks you again disbelieved. Let me rephrase it. After those 3 weeks, you again believed that Mr. Damiano really didn't have any way to get his music to Bob Dylan.
No, I never disbelieved that, because I know what I heard. My wife disbelieved that. My wife told me that the whole thing was a lie. I never disbelieved that part. I believed that this music was going to Bob Dylan. I know I believed that in my heart, and I still believe it till now. Now, maybe.
Brian, can we take a half a second?
That I thought about. But also I believed, after a while that Jim, there's no possible way that Jim could have been part of that scam, because we stayed, he stayed working for me for a while after that, and I learned more about what he was going through, and it wasn't really his fault, it was my fault.
When you said a scam, what was the specific scam that you thought might have been a possibility?
Yeah.
What kind of scam?
Well, that scam would be something like him and Anthony got together and made me believe that could have been a scam. But now I know better. Well, because of my relationship afterwards.
Sir, so the scam that you thought might be a possibility is that Mr. Damiano, wanting your 10 grand, and got together with Mr. Tiller to lie to you about alleged connections with Bob Dylan to get you to invest the $10,000. Is that the scam that...
It would have been a good scam if it was done that way, but they didn't want the money. I didn't pay them any money. The money was paid to the record company. He wanted to record a record, and that's, you know, that's all he wanted is his song produced.
The record company, you didn't pay any money to Sony or CBS. The money you paid went to the recording studio.
To the recording studio.
My question to you, sir, is one of the things that crossed your mind 3 or 4 weeks after this meeting was that in order to get you to pay the 10 grand, Mr. Tiller and Mr. Damiano may have lied to you about their alleged connections with Bob Dylan to get you to pay the 10 grand. Is that the scam that crossed your mind?
That's one of the thoughts that came to my mind to justify what I did to myself, but I know it's not true.
Well, you know it's not true. How do you know it's not true?
I know it's not true because of my continuous relationship with Jim.
Well, sir, you have no idea, do you, as you sit here today, whether in fact Mr. Tiller has any contact or ever had any contact whatsoever with Mr. Dylan. Is that correct?
I don't know for sure. No.
You have no way of knowing that one way or another. Is that correct?
No.
Other than the fact that Tiller told him?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Based on what he told me, he does. Now, I don't know if he really does or not, but based on
whatsoever with Mr. Dylan. Is that correct?
I don't know for sure. No.
You have no way of knowing that one way or another. Is that correct?
No.
Other than the fact that Tiller told him?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Based on what he told me, he does. Now, I don't know if he really does or not, but based on his words, he does.
But you know that the record went nowhere.
I don't know that.
So you met Sandy and you had the tickets before the concert, correct? Waterloo we're talking about.
We had our 2 tickets.
And what, if anything, happened with regard to Mr. Damiano before this concert?
He was on the phone with somebody. You know, I could only hear it, and I don't remember his conversation, but he was talking about the tickets, and there'll be tickets. He was trying to get 4 tickets for the show.
Well, let's back up for a minute. Let's back up for a minute.
Sure.
Did there come a time when Mr. Damiano called you about the Waterloo concert?
Oh, I'm not sure who called who.
At some point, you and he started talking about the Waterloo concert.
Yes.
What happened next with regard to you and he going to the Waterloo concert together?
Well, I think I was already planning on going.
Right.
Because I had my tickets already when I got to Jimmy's house. I know I've had my tickets already, so.
So there came a time when you went to Mr. Damiano's house?
Before the show, and he was planning on going too.
Was that the day of the show?
Yes.
And you went to his house for the purpose of going to the show together?
Yes.
At the time, he was trying to get 4 tickets to the show?
Yes. On the phone.
You already had 2 tickets.
Right.
And he was going to get 4 to give you 2 on the theory that maybe he can get better tickets?
That may have been his thinking at the time.
Okay, and what happened next?
Well, when we got to the show, he went to the window, and there was 4 tickets there for him.
And did you and Sandy and Pam and Mr. Damiano go to the concert?
We walked in. Yes, we did go to the concert. I didn't know how good his seats were, so me and Sandy kept the tickets that we originally had. And I wish I didn't do that because his seats were a lot better, but I wish I didn't do that because his seats were much better.
Because you could have scalped them and just taken his, right?
I could have scalped mine and sat with his, but instead I did the opposite.
Right.
To get some money for Pam. And they weren't going to sell them. They were just, and I said, Pam, why don't I go try to sell these for you? And she liked the idea, and so I went back to the line, and I sold them for a cost, face value. I didn't scalp them.
So you sold...
Face value, and I gave the money to Pam.
You sold your 2 tickets that you had previously bought.
No, I wish I did that. I sold 2 of the tickets that he received at the window.
I see.
Right.
And you sat in your seats.
Yes.
And they sat in their seats.
Yes.
Where were your seats?
Way off to the left of the stage. Mm-hmm. Very corner left, and it was maybe a dozen rows back or something.
On the floor?
Yeah, it's under the 10, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Under the
10. Sorry.
And how did it come that you scalped their 2 as opposed to your 2?
Well, I think I said I wasn't sure how good his seats were. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, whether I got my tickets earlier and maybe they were better, but I don't know. I sold their 2 tickets. I wish I didn't because they had much nicer seats.
And do you remember how much you got for the 2 tickets?
No, it was face value, whatever it was. I don't know.
Okay. As you're selling the tickets for face value...
If they had them at the box office, they weren't sold out.
Sure, I understand. As you're selling them the tickets, you then watch the concert from your seats.
Yes.
Off on the side, and Mr. Damiano, Mrs. Damiano sat
with the other 2 people.
The 2 people.
Yes, a couple that I sold the tickets to, and they said excellent seats. Thanks.
And what, if anything, did Mr. Damiano tell you about where he got the 4 seats on the night in question?
Okay.
And sir,
yes.
When I say on the night in question, I'm asking you to tell us whether you remember if he said anything to you about where he got the tickets on the night in question as opposed to some other time.
I remember him being on the phone in the kitchen for about 15, 20 minutes talking to some guy about the tickets. And I only know he said the guy's name Anthony Tiller, but he didn't. I mean, that's all I know.
Mm-hmm. And do you remember where Mr. Damiano's seats were?
They were, I would say, pretty much on center, maybe 6 rows back, maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. They were nice seats, though.
And now, prior to the concert, what, if anything, did Mr. Damiano tell you about why he was going to the concert?
We had a book of songs that Jimmy composed, and we were gonna give them to Bob. I was gonna meet Bob.
You were gonna meet Bob?
Yes, I was hoping to.
Okay, and why don't you tell us about what caused you to hope that you were going to meet Bob that night?
Well, when I saw the tickets that were there at the window, I was pretty sure I was going to meet Bob that night.
Why is that?
Because he was, I don't know, he said we were gonna.
Mr. Damiano told you he was going to meet Bob.
Well, we were going to give songs to Bob, yes.
And did he tell you, sir, that he had a date with Mr.
No, I still, believe it. When I see it, I kind of had that kind of an attitude, but...
Well, my question is, what did Mr. Damiano tell you about what was going to happen?
Well, we had a manila yellow envelope with songs in it and a demo tape of Another Justification, and we were going to give that to Bob.
Okay, my question to you, sir, is what did Mr. Damiano tell you about...
Would you say that the words were more important than the music?
The words are just as important as the music. There would be no music without the words.
Which do you do first, ordinarily?
The words.
Do you think there will ever be a time when you will paint or sculpt?
Oh, yes. Oh, sure.
Do you think there'll ever be a time when you'll be hung as a thief?
You weren't supposed to say that.